Michael Tucker, we are here finally, and I'm so excited to have you on the RBL Media Podcast. I have looked at a bunch of your content, your website, and I absolutely love what you do. I cannot wait for you to share your business and your services with our audience here today. So if you would, could you tell us, what is it that you do? What's your business, and why is it so incredibly awesome?
I do a lot of the things that other people don't want to do. I'll say that. But my name is Michael, and we run a funnel and virtual event agency. So we step into online entrepreneurs' businesses, and we run high converting virtual events to help them get more influence and make more money. And so we've been doing this for a while now, and I love it because there's no other vehicle that I have found that can take a lead's trust and a lead's credibility from 0 to a 10 in such a short amount of time. So I'm excited to be sharing a little bit about that today with you all. But more importantly, I'm excited to be here. I've listened to the podcast some. You're so great at interviewing, and I love the conversational style. So I'm excited to dive in.
Thank you. That's so nice. It's just like the most fun part of my, it's not true. I love so many parts of my business, but this is absolutely something that I enjoy. And it's because I get to talk to people like you who do amazing things in the world. And you are no exception. You've innovated a service that, like, I'd love to know how this came out, because I know virtual events after COVID became more of a prominent way for people to get in front of audiences, to get on stages. Is that where this originated from? Or, what is your story behind how did you realize that virtual events were something that entrepreneurs could utilize to get those really high quality qualified leads?
Yeah, very great question. And actually, how I started in this business is not what most people would expect. To be honest, my college age self would not even expect it as well. I didn't go to college thinking that I'm going to start a virtual event business, or I'm going to be building all these funnels, as people call them, or these websites. But what happened actually was this. In college, I went to school for business, but like a lot of college age students, I ended up graduating without really knowing where I was going to go next. And so I went on this hunt for the thing, and I just was trying anything and everything to make a dollar, because I just gotten married. So I just graduated college, just gotten married. And I was like, all right, I got to get some cash. And so I tried drop shipping, anything in stock trading, anything. And what ended up happening, one of my friends came up to me and said, hey, you should try real estate. And now this call isn't about real estate, but he said, you should try real estate. And I said, yes. But there was one problem, is I had no money. I said, dude, how do you expect me to get in real estate with no money? And he says, I'm going to show you. And so what we ended up doing is we bartered services. And if you're here, one of my life hacks, as I've done it many times, is learning how to barter services with other individuals, other professionals. And so what we did is he coached me in real estate for free. And he said, but the prerequisite is that you have to work in my business for free. So I'll coach you real estate, but you have to work in my business for free. And so that, for me, although at the time, like, some people would be like, oh, that's free labor for coaching. Like, it was a win for me, because I just was at this place where I needed to learn. And so that was actually the first place I started learning about marketing and virtual events. And if I want to give you the Cliff Notes version, we actually together, his name was David and myself, we grew our that business that we were co-working in together to $750,000 in 10 months, all through virtual events. And so that was like the light bulb moment in my world. I was like, there's something to this. I was making $20,000 to $30,000 a year, but we just made $750,000 in less than a year. Woo, mind blown. And so that was the start of it. And from there, it grew and grew and grew. And we've learned a lot of things. We've learned a lot of tactics and strategies. But I'll say, I didn't expect it, but it was one barter, one negotiation that got me into this industry.
That's epic. You never know if you say yes to something that might sound like a red flag, as long as you're careful, right? Because I can see why people were like, this sounds like somebody just wants to take advantage of you. And it ended up being the thing, like the pivotal experience that changed your entire, like, the trajectory of your career. So good job saying yes to that leap of faith.
Everything.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so many people are afraid to say yes. They're afraid to say yes, but It's the one thing that helped me. And so, don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and do that. You never know what's on the other side. So yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Incredible. So, what is it about a virtual event that is different from those traditional methods of lead generation, or even, I mean, your business is called Funnel Pros. And when we think of funnels, we think of these, digital kind of building blocks with these, sequences and triggers. And so I went to your website, I watched your video, and I was like, this guy's a funnel builder. I know funnel builders. I've talked to them. We build funnels. Like, that's cool. I love talking about funnels. Let's do it. And then I realized that virtual events was the cornerstone of your offer. And I was just so fascinated. I read a bunch of the case studies, and I would love to hear, what is it about virtual events that makes this entire concept of funnels different? And how does that enhance the client's ability to bring in qualified leads? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's many different types of funnels out there. If you study Russell Brunson or any digital marketing today, you're going to see that there's ebook funnels, Facebook funnels. We can go VSL funnels. There's tons of them, right? There's different styles. But I'll say this, what the main difference is in my eyes is the amount of immersion you have with each individual person, right? The funnels all work the same. The funnels is just a medium you're using to take somebody from not knowing who you are to educating them on who you are and what you do, and then getting them to purchase that product. So what I've found is that these virtual events, you can bring somebody in, spend an hour, spend 90 minutes with them, and then all of a sudden, they're handing you their credit card, they're handing you the debit card ready to pay. And now that's a little bit different than a phone call or book a call funnel where maybe they're going and just reading a page, filling out an application, just talking with you for 15 minutes. Who's going to have more trust? Someone who spends 15 minutes with you, or 90 minutes, or 2 or 3 hours? We all know the answer, right? And so what I found, and one of my friends actually said this one time, and I don't know if he was the source of this or he found it somewhere else, but he told me, he said, Michael, for about every hour that you spend with someone, spend time with them, you have about $1,000 worth of trust with them. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So if I spend an hour with somebody talking, educating them, that could be them watching my YouTube video. It could be them coming to a webinar. I have approximately, about $1,000 worth of trust. So what happens if I spend 5 hours with them? What happens if I spend 10 hours with them? My level of trust and credibility increases, so I can charge more and get more from them. Now, listen, it's not always about making more money and getting more money from the clients, but it's also about that. You know what I'm saying? It's a business, right? So that's why I love the virtual events, is because you can build that immersion, right? The more immersion, the higher the conversion. And you can immerse so much more with them. Does that make sense?
Man, this thing is so laggy. We will keep going until it gets so bad that we're going to switch to Zoom. All right. Well, okay, so that makes a ton of sense, right? So the more time that you spend with someone, kind of in front of somebody, setting yourself up on a stage. It's your own stage. Yeah. But there is something about stages, right? That brings that level of expertise. You're teaching something of value. You are spending quality time with people. I love that model. And I can just kind of foresee people asking, well, this has been around for so long, it's called a webinar, right? How is what you offer different from something like a live webinar? Or, we're no strangers to the recorded webinar, which I think thumbs down. But it's a model that's we're not a stranger to, and yet I know that you do things differently. So how does this differ from that webinar model?
Yeah, great question. So what we found is, whenever I was first starting working with David and he was educating me on real estate, I was learning the digital marketing game. We even tried webinars ourselves. Now, I use webinars every day in our clients' businesses. I use them myself. I love them. But what we found for us in his business is they didn't work. Why? Because he needed to spend, again, more time with and build more credibility with people. And so we actually, one of our first virtual events we ever ran was a webinar. And I'm going to be honest, we made $0. I can remember, building out my first funnel and click funnels, right? I remember getting the trial, setting it up, trying it out. And I remember building out all the emails. It took me hours and hours and hours to build. And I remember we ran this webinar, we launched and posted the offer. We only had probably 30, 40 people there. And I'll never forget sitting at my kitchen table. It was I think a Friday night. I was sitting in the dark at my kitchen table, hitting refresh on ClickFunnels saying, why is no sales coming in? And we realized that model didn't work for us. And so we had an individual and a friend, and this is me going on a tangent, telling a story for you. But we had a friend say, hey, there's this model. It's called a 5-day challenge. And this was back before COVID. So not many people running 5-day challenges. This was like 2017. He said, hey, you should run this thing called a 5-day challenge. They're doing amazing for us. You should try it. We're like, okay, cool. So we sat down. He taught us an hour's worth of information in Zoom. We went, implemented it, and we made $30,000 within a couple weeks. We didn't take perfect action. We took imperfect action. And so we made $30,000 with no email list, just a small social media following, no ads. And that was really, I said the first light bulb was whenever we made all the money, but it was then when I was like, wow, I just made $30,000 just through this 5-day event. So we specialize, I'm talking fast here, but we specialize in the 5-day model because we are all about building transformational events. Okay. We are not just about building virtual events, but transformational experiences that people can come into. And at the end of it, they leave a whole different person. And that's my favorite part about it, is because you get people coming in thinking one way, acting one way, and then they leave completely transformed. Like that's rewarding. And so, yeah, we use webinars too, but we focus on a longer model because, like I said, going back to immersion, we have more immersion with them, but then we can create more transformation. And that's why we're all in business, right? We want to transform the lives of others. So we learned that model, and that's been our model ever since. We run 5-day virtual events, which we can dive into. And we've ran over 100, 200 of these, and they've been life-changing for us, and they've changed thousands of people's lives.
Incredible. Yeah, I'd love to dive into that. And I think part of what makes this so different and what probably works for you in the same space that may not have worked for so many people who have tried this before is that kind of it's that very service-based, authentic nature of a virtual event where the speaker is set up to provide value and, to your point, transformation, rather than being set up to sell. Those are they're so different, and yet the desired outcome is the same for either one. But one of them makes your clients feel like they're valued and they're getting something that is enhancing their quality of life, enhancing their business. The other one makes them feel like, oh gosh, I don't know, this seems kind of good, but I'm not sure. Is this a scam? I've seen this before, right? So I would love to know, how do you coach your clients in crafting the event so that it feels like such a transformational experience for their attendees?
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the work that we coach our clients to do, it's not the fun work, right? Everybody wants to go make the offers. They want to build the offer, but it starts way before the offer, right? It starts way before the fancy funnels and the fancy graphics. It's actually figuring out what is going to bring that transformation and what do they need? What are their desires? What is their end destination? Because if I came on here and I was trying to sell you chocolate donuts, but you don't even need or want or like chocolate donuts, like I'm just running, they're just running that promotion, running that offer for no reason. And so I see so many people when they come in and they start working with us and they have all these big grand plans. We have to slow them down and say, hey, let's actually look at the research. Let's actually look at what are their needs? What are they thinking about right now whenever it comes to the pain? What are they doing right now that's not working? And we sit down and craft amazing content based upon those things. So if you're here, one tip I would give you is this: take inventory and make market research a must in your business. What do you mean? When somebody buys a product from you, send a survey asking them, have somebody on your team reach out asking them, hey, why did you buy this? Have you bought these types of products before? Hey, what would you consume the product, what would you like made differently? Like if we were to sell it again or redo it, like come up with the market research, because that's going to tell you how you can craft that transformational event. You could see, hey, people are struggling with XYZ, so I'm going to create content on that. And so whenever you can really tailor the message to them and for them, that's when it gets powerful. So we're not all, listen, this word gets thrown around so much, just add value. But what does that even mean, right? For you, it's different than me. From Susan, it's different than Bill, right? So the word value gets thrown around so much, but you really have to take time to ask yourself, what is that value? Because it's different for everybody. So that's just my 2 cents. You may have different thoughts or somebody here listening may have different thoughts, but that's where we start, is there in the content.
I mean, it makes sense, right? And I think you're right. It's very tempting to jump to the offer and jump to say, like, you know, here's all the things that I can do for you and here's how I do it and let's work together. But we have to build that trust. And building trust, I love what you said about, you know, how many hours you spend with a person. And it made me think, you know, what are some ways that you retain an audience in a virtual event, keeping them coming back for more when they have all of the freedom in the world to just shut their computer off and walk away or put it on in the background and work on other things? Do you have any strategies or ways that you coach your clients through that sort of retention process, especially for an event that's either several hours long or even several days long?
Yeah, I think there's a few things every event must have, right? It's the 3 E's, okay? 3 E's you need. Number 1, you need energy. So if you're going to have people wanting, or you want people to come back, you have to have the right energy. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to be over the top bubbly, you know, and be on cloud 9 the whole time. No, it's you showing up with your authentic self, but showing up with belief, showing up with passion, right? And which leads me to say enthusiasm. People need to see enthusiasm in what you're doing, right? So energy, enthusiasm. You need to have engagement, meaning that whenever you are running your event, you need to get them commenting in the chat. You need to give them homework. One tip that we do in all of our events is we give them action steps to do, and they must bring it back the next day. So we'll say, hey, this is a 5-day event, day 1, day 2, day 3. We're giving them an assignment that's going to get them closer to their main objective. So for example, if you're, in the weight loss industry, maybe your event, the homework you give out is, hey, tonight, I want you to go find a nutritionist in your area, right? Or, hey, I want you to go find and contact one gym coach in your area, right? Whatever that may look like, we give them something tangible they can take with them and actually implement so that they come back the next day wanting more. So energy, enthusiasm, and engagement is a must. And I promise you, when you do that right, if you show up passionately and people can truly see that, but then you're actually being thoughtful about what you're encouraging them to do and what you're pushing them to do, they'll come back. They're going to say, wow, I just attended that event and I've experienced more transformation in these 3 days, 5 days than I have in my past year, right? And so the reason why I love these, especially the 5-day events that we run, is because it provides accountability. And most people never create accountability for themselves. And so when you introduce what true accountability looks like to them for the first time, they're blown out of the water. They're like, whoa, what just happened? I just made $1,000 this week, or I lost 5 pounds this week. They're like, what just happened? Because most people don't have coaches like we do, right? You probably have a coach. I have a coach. Most people don't. So whenever they get that, it's totally mind blowing from them. But it starts with you sitting down and crafting that and making sure you're showing up the way you need to for them.
That is, anybody can use that advice, even if virtual events isn't your thing. Showing up authentically with energy, I think it's an amazing way to just host your Zoom calls that you host all week long. It's definitely really solid advice. I'm curious, what types of, if you can think of 1 or 2 examples of businesses that are not necessarily coaching businesses or, people who have online courses or anything like that, and think, I don't have a service that I necessarily teach in. Will this work for me? Have you had clients in like service-based businesses or even, physical product businesses utilize this model successfully? And what was that like?
Great question. So we've done this in every industry. We've had life insurance agents, we've had real estate agents, we've had, tons of different people. And this is where a lot of people say, well, I'm not a speaker. A lot of people say, I'm not an author. I don't have a coaching program. Well, listen, we've done this for software. It's all it is educating your potential clients on how you help to overcome a pain of some sort and then presenting a solution, right? Educating them. So for example, I'll give you how real estate agents can use virtual events. Real estate agents, there's tons of home loan offers out there, right? There's 0% down home loans, right? There's 5%. There's these veteran loans. I'm going to be honest, I have no clue what types of loans are out there. But if I was a first time home buyer or I was looking for a home to buy, I would show up to a virtual class to learn about my loan options. So how, like, for example, a lot of real estate agents have come to me and say, Michael, this isn't for me. I can't implement this. Yeah, you can. Start hosting workshops once a month for new home buyers that need to learn about loan options. You partner with a preferred lender as a real estate agent. And I know I'm going off the rail here, but giving you an example, you partner with a preferred lender as an agent. And guess what? You're going to connect them. I don't know if you can make referral fees in that industry, but you may get a referral, you may not. And then also you become the trusted individual in your market now as the agent. They're going to say, okay, Michael is now the person I want in my corner whenever I go to buy a house. They're going to say, Michael is the person I want to buy my house, sell my house for me, because they just connected me to the loan person. I just spent an hour with them. I trust them. And so listen, we've done this in multiple industries, solar, software, but it's all about just education. So how can you educate your audience and your potential clients on why what you do is needed and why you doing it is better? Does that make sense? Or is there still any hang up like you would see other people would have?
Yeah. I mean, I just think people have these limiting beliefs that, I'm not a teacher, or, I'm not a speaker. This is not something that I do. I don't have anything to teach. We often sort of forget that the thing that we do every day is something that we've created expertise around, that other people are craving to learn about, that, we assume that they already know. That happens a lot in like the online course space. So I think that's great that you're also empowering people to create a legacy for themselves by teaching what they've spent so many years crafting. It's really, it's a beautiful model.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you all. There's people that need you and what you know. There's people out there that their futures depend on you being willing to share what you're passionate about. There's people, their futures depend on you being willing to step out of your comfort zone, speak up and speak out with your message. And that's why I love these virtual events is, you were sharing about stages and the power of a stage. When you step on, whether it's an in-person platform or a virtual platform, and you get up, you have influence over people's lives. You have influence over them. So there's power in your message. Don't be afraid to step on that platform and share it, even if it seems so simple. If all I did was help one or two people, would it be worth it? I would say it would. I'm sure you would as well, if all I did was help a couple people. And so don't let the thought of I'm not an amazing speaker, I don't have such like a big audience, don't let those things get in the way. You can do this. You just got to step out on faith, y'all. Got to step out on faith, and you can do it. I promise you you can.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for encouraging everybody out there to at least try it, right? I think to your point, to your story, when we first started recording, you just tried something. We're like, we're just going to give it a shot. It's not perfect. Look what happened, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can always, what I tell people is, you learn something new, you implement it, then you tweak it, meaning you adjust what worked, what didn't work, then you just repeat the process, right? So you learn something new, you test it out, you figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then you repeat the process. You learn some more, and you just keeps rotating. So ask yourself, are you putting yourself in opportunities where you can learn? Are you actively putting what you learn into action? And then after, which this is where a lot of people mess up, is they run their events and then they never take time to see what worked, what didn't work. They just say, oh, no sales. but they didn't go look, okay, were the emails successful? Did people open them? Maybe not. They never take time to really analyze the results. So make sure you're analyzing what you're doing and then go back and keep learning and repeating the process. So I feel like, I don't know. I don't know you a whole lot well, but I feel like you would be really good at that. I feel like just because of your personality and who you are, the success you found, I really feel like you thrive in probably that area though.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. It's I mean, I think that there's always the fun part of things and then the number crunching and the analytics. But if we connect that to the success of anytime you do this in the future, or it becomes almost like a game, right? Like, okay, we had these emails, this one was opened, the next three weren't, or people started dropping off at hour 2.5, or whatever those analytics look like. If we can just use data as feedback instead of as a reflection of our value, right? Like, you didn't fail if you didn't get the sales that you wanted. There is a piece of the puzzle that needs to be adjusted. And yeah, it's hard. It's easier said than done, for sure, because we often put so much of our heart and soul into preparing for things like this. But yeah, that's part of the journey. And on that note, I am really curious, because I think the event is perhaps the biggest or the most exciting part of the funnel, but it's not the only part of it. What does the rest of the funnel look like? The pre-event, the post-event, and what tips might you have for people who are looking to try this? Aside from calling you, which everybody should, what can people implement both before and after?
Can you say that one more time? You were breaking up on my end. I apologize.
No
Just ask the
worries.
question
Yeah.
one time.
So I'm just curious what the whole funnel might look like for something like a virtual event, both before the event. What is the lead up to that? How do we get people excited? What does the event itself look like? Do we have any communication between, the actual speaking portions of that? And then what does the follow-up look like? Not to give away all your secrets, but just, sneak peeks.
No, I'm willing to give out as much as possible, but I'll say this, you can make it as simple or as complex as you want, right? You can make these events as simple as just going live in a Facebook group because you don't have a big tech team and you don't have all the software, or you can make it as complicated as you're using recording softwares and you have all the text and emails automations. But I'll say this, really on the front end, you need to have great communication. Like, in order for an event to work really well, you have to be willing to keep their attention and retain them really strategically, because if not, what's going to happen is they're not going to show up and you're not going to have the chance to build that trust and rapport with them. And so what I tell people is the trust and rapport starts not when you click go live on Zoom or whatever software you're using. It starts from the moment they land on your first landing page, right? The moment they receive that first email. And so what I'll say is, passing through that first landing page and going on to, okay, what happens after they opt in? I will say this: we have communications via text and email leading up to the event very consistently. For us, we're emailing them more frequently than texting. But text is a big feature of what we're doing. If you're not utilizing SMS marketing in your business right now, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. So I would make sure that you're collecting phone numbers as much as possible on your landing pages, your funnels, because most people I would say they probably open up 90% of texts they receive, right? Whereas on emails, open rates may be only 20%, 10%, right? So definitely want to make sure you're implementing SMS marketing. And so what we do prior to the event is we're getting really strategic about what we're sending to them. It's not just, hey, 3 days into the class, but it's, hey, 3 days into the class, one of my students who was just like you learned how to make XYZ amount with this strategy, right? Mm-hmm. We're being more strategic about giving them social proof, giving them testimonials, breaking down objections before the event even happens, right? So ask yourself, how can I use my communication tools prior to the event to get them even more excited for the event, but then get them in a state of mind that when they show up, they don't have all the objections, they don't have all these hurdles that they have to overcome because you already tackled those in the communications prior. And so that on the front end, It may seem like it's a lot. It's not. It's just you taking some time, you and your team, to figure out, okay, what are those roadblocks that they're currently facing? What are those hurdles, and how can I help them perceive them as we're going to overcome those together? And so that's what we do beforehand. And I know we're going to go deep here, but we keep that same communication flow throughout the event too. We're communicating consistently during the events, specifically our 5-day events that we run. We're emailing and texting multiple times a day. Why? Because our attention span in today's world is so small, right? We have such a small attention span. You go scroll on Facebook. How long do you watch a video on TikTok or Instagram before you scroll? You probably watch it 2 seconds. You probably, like, if you're deciding whether you want to watch a video, like, you have about 1 or 2 seconds. You decide, I'm watching that or I'm not. And so we have that we're fighting against, right? As marketers, as business owners. So we have to keep communication in front of them, because if not, somebody else will steal their attention. So we're communicating before, during, we're sending, again, getting them in a community is a big thing. We put all of our attendees in a Facebook group. Some of our clients are putting them inside of a school group, SKOOL, but we put them in a community. And inside of these communities, prior to the event, you're giving them assignments in the community. During the event, you're giving them homework to do in the community. So the reason these events work so well is because, again, that accountability comes back into place. They're surrounded with people with like-minded goals. They're surrounded with people who want them to win. They're surrounded by people who are going to push them and challenge them to think differently. And so there's so much to it, y'all. I could spend probably 10 or 15 minutes, but those are just a few of the things you want to make sure you do in your event: is curate good communications. And that's even after the event too. We can get into some of those, but you want to make sure, because it's every step of the process, right? And but then also at the same time, figuring out, how can I create community outside the Zoom walls? How can I create community, when they're not sitting in a Zoom with me for an hour? And if you can master those, and if you can get that down, you'll be in a great headspace. I promise you, and you'll have a lot of results.
Incredible. I love the attention and intention that you put into all of this. It sounds like you craft a very intentional event. And an email is not just an email. It's not just a reminder email. It also has value. It also has high touch, which I think aids in that authenticity and that trust building. Really, really cool. I would love to dive in and kind of see, what guidance and templates you have. And you did mention a couple of platforms. You mentioned school, you mentioned Facebook, Zoom. Are there any kind of favorites that you typically recommend to your clients for each of the different components of this funnel?
Yeah, great question. You're probably familiar, but I don't know if the audience is, with a software called High Level. We use High Level for a lot of everything we do. We use it for emailing, texting, our landing pages, collecting payments. It's like the done for you solution. So you can actually go to High Level, check it out. It's so robust. So as far as communications and like the actual landing page and collecting details, that has everything you need, right? And you can automate it. And the cool thing is, it's like, how can you build out this event once, so that in the future you don't have to build it out again? And that's the power of the systems and the tools we have nowadays. Is we'll build it out inside of this software, High Level. And if we ever want to run the event again, guess what? It's there. We don't have to change anything. So for that side of things, we use High Level. But then on the flip side, for communities, I love Facebook, mainly because of the fact that it's easy barrier to entry, right? So people are going to come in. They don't have to download an outside app. They don't have to learn an outside app. 95% of people are on Facebook anyway. So it's just a click of a button. They're in a group, right? So we'll create Facebook groups. But if it's a higher end program, like a higher end event with a higher price point, we'll maybe do a private community in a school inside of a private separate app. School is very simple. I like that as well. Whenever it comes to streaming, you'll definitely keep it simple. You don't need all these fancy softwares. We've used Zoom for streaming for years. ever since 2017, 2018. We've used it for 1,000-person events, 1,500-person events. It's exactly what you need. There's some things you just don't want to overcomplicate, and that's one of them, is getting people into the room. Most people know how to get into Zoom. You don't want to overcomplicate that. Any other softwares that you'd be interested in learning about that I could give you tips and advice on?
I think those were the big ones. You did mention ClickFunnels a little while ago. Do you still use ClickFunnels?
Great question. I do for some clients. ClickFunnels, they're going through, a growing process, and, High Level has a lot of the features that they don't have. So if you were to choose and you were just starting out, I would probably recommend High Level over ClickFunnels. But the one thing I love about ClickFunnels is that they have such an amazing community. So if you're looking for more of a community and more education around how to build funnels and landing pages specifically, probably would go the ClickFunnels route. But if you're looking for something that's more affordable, something that has a little bit more features, I'd go the High Level route. But yes, we use ClickFunnels every day, not in my business, but in our clients' businesses. So very familiar with it, and it's definitely part of the family.
Awesome. Yeah, High Level is, I think, probably the fastest growing in terms of client base platform that I hear about it every day. More and more people are using it. I mean, you don't have to do an extra or a separate text platform. They offer the text marketing, and
Right.
and there's like an agency model too, right? Where you can kind of white label it, and something that I feel like if you're not doing already, that would be a phenomenal thing to offer your clients.
Yeah, and we actually do that. So that's cool you say that. So we have, you can like she was saying, you can get a white label account and you can customize it your own. So what we did is we actually put all of our virtual event resources inside of our white labels. So we have our funnels, our automation. So people they come to us and we just give them that. What do you use? What's kind of like the setup for you all whenever you set up your landing pages or you do any of your marketing? I'd be intrigued to hear what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of in a period of transition as well. My clientele was almost exclusively online course creators for many years. And so I was deep in the Kajabi community, and really, like, I had my website on there. I still do. And most of my clients were on Kajabi, which is, it's an all-in-one specifically for people who have online courses and memberships and things like that. Since we've started to expand our services and our target audience, I actually yesterday found a very cool platform called Framer.app. And it looks like it's great as like a content management system. So they have really cool CMS features. I'm really digging Webflow. Like I feel like I'm just I have shiny object syndrome right now because I'm looking for the next best thing. But yeah, I mean, for very simple funnels, simple email management, Kajabi it's been good to me. But I am kind of looking for an alternative. I've been looking at High Level, so we'll see. I haven't made a decision yet.
We're here to help you. We're here to help you. We operate in many different places. But the cool thing is, y'all, there's so many softwares out there. There's so many different ways you can go. Just get in there and see what works for you, right? Find a community. And that's one thing I love about a lot of these softwares and a lot of these companies is they've learned, and a lot of these companies have realized that they have to build a community to win and to thrive in this market. And so a lot of them are building so many great resources, so many courses and tutorials on how you can use their software. So go out there, find what works for you. But this is what I want you to do. Don't let something like that stop you from taking action. I've had so many people say, I'm going to do this one day. And I'll say, okay, what's holding you up? Well, I haven't decided which funnel platform I'm gonna get. Oh, you know what? I haven't decided what X, Y. And I'm like, yo, like you're literally holding yourself back from hundreds and thousands of dollars, hundreds and thousands of leads because you're in your own head. Those things are cool. They're needed at a time. But listen, you got to remember, you can start with as simple as possible. You can start out a simple framework. So just start. It would be one thing. And there's some of you all listening. That's the message you need to hear today is I just need to start, y'all. If that's you, here's your permission to throw away all those thoughts of I need XYZ. I can't do XYZ without that. You can get started. Get started imperfectly. Get started messy. You can build Rome later. You can build the massive structure later. but just get started.
I love that. I love that so much. And to that point, that applies to gear as well. People get like hung up on like, I need the camera and the good mic and this and that. And it's like, you've got a phone. Phones are so good right now. Like just, yeah, I love that message. Start with what you got and tweak as you go.
Yeah, you wouldn't realize how many big influencers and stuff record virtual events and do things on their phones. So get started. But this is what I want to say. When you were working with, and I know this is me asking you the questions. So I know this is a little bit different, but whenever you were working with course creators, you're working a lot of that realm, I'd be interested. What was one of the biggest things that held them back from starting? Because we're on this conversation of, do I want to start? Should I start now? What was it that you've seen a lot of your clients that you worked with, or a lot of the individuals that came into your world, held them back? I'm just curious.
Hands down, imposter syndrome and perfectionism every time. I mean, we would build the whole kit and caboodle, and a week before launch, all of a sudden, they weren't happy with so many little things. So there was sort of that front of, I can't launch until it's perfect because I'm afraid to put myself out there. And then there was who am I to teach this? So-and-so teaches this. They're huge. Their audience is huge. They do it better. So there's so much of that. And the imposter syndrome shows itself at different points in the journey. So sometimes people won't even record their content because they're feeling that so intensely. Other times people will start to record their content, but they won't finish it. Other times they'll finish the whole course, but they don't want to launch it. So it's that constant sort of understanding that that's always going to exist, and needing to connect with the value and the service that you're providing to these people that so desperately need what you have to offer, and launching it anyway, to your point. Yeah. Is that a similar,
Awesome.
Do you experience something similar with your clients?
I think that's very common. And I think that's, something that not just in our industries, but any business, anybody, there's people that deal with imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But listen, y'all, it comes down to the confidence in yourself, know that you can do this. And I'll say this, do you know who Eric Thomas is by any chance?
No, who is that?
Okay, you need to look up Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker, and he went from homeless to now speaking in front of NFL teams and speaking in front of thousands and thousands of people. Amazing individual. I love his voice. I love his message. But I was listening to a podcast one day by him, and he was one of those that started imperfect, by the way, like a little tangent here, a little side moment. He started waking up every day at 3 a.m. and recording a video on his phone. He got a camera later. And that's now you can see where he's led to, starting out just with his phone. But he said something one time in a podcast. He said, there's only one difference in why I'm speaking on NFL team stages. I'm speaking in front of Apple executives. He said, and then, just a couple years ago, I was speaking in front of youth groups. I was speaking at elementary schools. I was speaking at dance recitals, whatever it is, right? He's just like, there's one difference that have gotten me here, and it's my level of confidence in myself. He said, one day I decided, you know what, I am worth more than what I perceive myself. And he said, I should be speaking on those stages. And he said, once he convinced himself that he was worthy and that he could do it, he started carrying himself different. He started having conversations differently with people. He wasn't afraid to ask the big questions. And so if you're here today and you're dealing with the imposter syndrome, is just know that you are worth it, and you have the confidence, or you need the confidence, but you are worth stepping into for it. So listen, it's scary sometimes getting in front of people speaking in virtual events. Whenever I first started, I was like saying the same thing. I'm not supposed to be on this, speaking on these stages. I'm not supposed to be on this podcast. Like, what? But I'll say this. It's all about repetition. The more you get up in front of people, the more confidence you can build. And so if you're here and you want to get better at public speaking, you want to get better at running virtual events, you have to start with one. You have to run it one time. Get in front of that microphone, that camera, that one time. And then you take another turn. You take another stab at it. And you do it again and again. And I promise you, the fourth, fifth, sixth time, you won't even have your notes anymore. You'll be waving your hand. You'll be jumping up and down. And it's going to be so freeing for you. But you have to start with where you're at, and just realize that everybody's first time in their virtual event was probably a little shaky, a little rough. But be real, be transparent with your audience. They'll give you the grace you need.
I love that so much. I think that is a message that everybody can take and run with. Really, really beautiful advice. I love to tell people, somebody that you respect. Find a speaker or a thought leader that you love to follow and consume their content, and see how far back you can go on their YouTube channel. If you can get to the first 10 videos that they've ever published, you will be so inspired to start wherever you are today.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I've done that multiple times with like, especially like you look at like Mr. Beast, people like Eric Thomas, Tony Robbins. One of the, I don't know, some people like Tony Robbins, some don't. I've started going back and I've watched like his public speaking from when he was like 22, 23 years old. The best motivational speaker in the world. It's astonishing. One thing you'll find though, they're not any different. I mean, maybe their speaking style has changed a little bit. Maybe they got a little bit more polished. But I noticed Tony Robbins, I was watching him at 22, 23 years old. This guy, he spoke. He was speaking his heart out. He was, sharing his message. Eric Thomas, the same thing. What changed was that people slowly attached onto him as he shared their mission, as they shared their message, as they shared with the world their mission. People started latching onto it, right? As they learned how to become charismatic leaders, people caught onto it. People realized the vision was bigger than just a video, just a podcast, just a webinar, and people started following. And so you have to start somewhere. But I'll say, really get good at asking yourself, how can I become a charismatic leader, especially on a virtual event, virtual stages, right? Those who can become charismatic and transform into that and butt into that, you're going to have such an amazing journey. And I've worked with amazing coaches. I've worked with amazing speakers, and every one of them that I'm like, that's one of my star clients. They have mastered the art of becoming a charismatic leader. And there's books out there on that. There's YouTube videos. We could talk about some other trainings on how to do that. But maybe just look into that, because I think that is important if you really want to crush virtual events, and not just virtual events, in-person events, speaking engagements, speaking on podcasts. You had to learn how to care and how to become charismatic.
I think that is the perfect place to wrap this up, because it is a tall order that I would love to challenge everybody to step into. And to your point, no matter what space you're in, we're always in front of people. We're always sharing our message with people, big, huge events, or in a one-on-one Zoom. The way that we can impact others and the magnitude of our message can be shared no matter what that stage looks like. And you've inspired me for sure in this last hour or so to really just own the messages that I have to share. And I truly, truly appreciate you stepping into that space yourself and saying, this is something that I am excited to share with the world. And this is the legacy that you're able to leave. And it's a beautiful. I love what you have to offer. Your business is incredible. Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with? And definitely, please also share how they can contact you and get in touch and learn more about what you have to offer.
Yeah, no, I'll just say this, number one, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. I don't do this a lot, but subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, because number one, it takes a lot of time and effort to do this, right? And to actually sit down and craft conversations like this, prepare the show notes, prepare. So number one, thank you for making it this far into the episode, just because I know it takes commitment. But go ahead, do a favor, leave a comment and leave a review below. But I'll say this, before you end out, make a commitment to yourself today of one thing you're going to do to get your message out into the world. It could be that next event. It could be you start to make more social media content, but you have to make a commitment to yourself. And the reason why, back when I was in college, I wasn't finding the success that I wanted whenever I graduated, is because I was bouncing from thing to thing to thing. I never committed to one area. I never committed to one thing. But once I did that and I committed and I said, I'm going to do this no matter what, I'm going to succeed in this area despite what hurdles come my way, despite anything that tries to stop me, that's when my life started to change. So today, ask yourself, what am I going to commit to today from this conversation and what am I going to implement to change my business and change my life over the next 30 to 60 days. Figure that out, go take action. And if you want to connect more, I'm just one click away, y'all. You can go to thefunnelpros.com. There's no sales on there. You're not going to be able to go on there and buy a product or anything, but you can have a virtual coffee with me. If you want to sit down and we could talk for 15 minutes, I'll sit down and just say, hey, this is how virtual events could work in your business. Here's what I would do if I was you. And so we could just chat for 15, 20 minutes. Really conversational. I want to get to know you. You can go to thefunnelpros.com. But again, thank you for allowing me to share the platform and share the stage with you. I've had some fun. We got to find ways to collaborate offline. I think it'd be amazing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. What you said is true. Every hour you spend with someone, you build, did you say $10,000 of trust?
It's 1,000 for each hour.
1,000. Let's change that to 10, because this proves right here, you are so authentic. You're so easy to talk to. You truly believe in what you do and what you offer. And I've really enjoyed this, and I agree. Let's find ways to collaborate. And yeah, we may do round 2 soon, because this ended too soon and I just had a blast.
Let's do it. Love it.
All right. Take care.
All right. See ya.